about 9 o'clock in the morning here at the allotment garden, and I have the entire field to myself, which is fantastic. It's hazy and warm and a perfect day for gardening, but instead I'm going to show you a little bit of what's going on in my own garden, and then we're going to have a look around everyone else's plots to see what's growing. And I've also just realized that it is a year exactly to the very first of these plot tours. So I started doing a garden tour last June, just showing the allotment garden, what's growing, and the projects that I had going at the time. And you can check out that video. I'll put a link up on the screen. And then compare. So now a year on, things have really progressed, and it really shows to me that, you know, having a garden isn't necessarily about getting everything done immediately. It's about working on it bit by bit, and it will evolve over time into something that you love and cherish and is super productive. So if you're starting out with a new garden, don't beat yourself up, because there's a lot of things that will happen over a longer period of time. It's just bit by bit. So I'm going to start by having a look around my own plot, and then we're going to have a walk around the field, and it's a beautiful day for it. If you've got any questions or comments about what you see, leave them down as a comment below and I'll get back to you. And also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. So I put out videos every Sunday, and they're mainly about the allotment garden, but also about my bees and some DIY projects as well. So anything involving making beauty products, soap, and things from the garden. Anyway, let's get started. I thought that we would begin by looking at last week's cucumber trellis that I made out of a pallet. And it's incredible how much the plants have grown since then. There's flowers on the one in the center, and they're already starting to clamber up through the slats. Those two there. That one on the far end, he's a little bit behind. So the idea with this is that the cucumbers will grow up the face of this pallet, and it's south facing. And then as they begin forming fruit, the fruit will hang down. That's the theory anyway. We'll see how it works this summer. Now just yesterday, I planted some lettuce seedlings under the cucumber trellis, and these guys will appreciate the shade, and I'm sure that they'll be ready to harvest before the cucumbers kind of crowd out all the light. The brassica bed is coming on a treat. They're all really starting to fill out and get leafy and green. So I've got two different types of cabbages in here. They're both smallish types because it is a small bed. Down the center, purple sprouting broccoli. Over here, kale. And here on the far end, it's a new vegetable. Well, new kind of in a way. It's a red Brussels sprouts, and I got these as part of a Christmas gift. As of yesterday, my strawberries have started to ripen, and I just put this netting down. I was actually quite surprised to even find any red, and now today there's quite a few that are turning red, and we've got to keep these protected from birds, especially those pheasants. So these ones down here at the end, this is a type called Mara des Bois that I got from Thompson & Morgan this year. And then the larger plants over here, these are older plants, and there's a red type in here, and I have no idea which variety it is. And then there's also pine berries. And pine berries are a white variety. Let's see if we can find any in here. So these are pretty, these are definitely pine berries here. They're not yet ripe, but when they are ripe, they will turn kind of a soft white blushy color, like slightly light pink. So back in April, I think it was, I planted my sweet peas against these bamboo canes, and they were decimated by the pheasants who pecked at them. So I've had to put this veggie mesh around them. I've also planted some lettuces in here. The second one is missing because I took it home for dinner last night. But look at this, the first sweet pea of the season. Now these plants will climb up these canes before we know it. But for now, I'm really happy that we have at least one sweet pea. Look at that. This is Lady Salisbury. First time I've planted or grown this type before. And let's have a smell. The first smell of sweet peas for the year. Oh, that is so good. Sweet peas, they're really humble. They don't look like much to some people, but oh, they've got powerful fragrance. Above the sweet pea teepee, there's some more gooseberries and currants, and in between I've planted dahlias and some more cosmos. And this will look a lot bushier and wilder very soon. And then in this netted area, the first crop that you see in the front, those are kohlrabi. And behind it, the bare patch, that's where I had some spinach that I've harvested and re-sown with seed. And there's radish and beetroot in there, and then a type of green. And I can't remember the name at the moment. These kind of slug nibbled leaves, these belong to turnips. And I don't really care that the leaves are a bit nibbled. They're starting to plump up, it looks like, from what I can see. Here, this is a type of beetroot, and it's not as touched by the slugs. And then another beer trap there. And then down here, I've got some kale and some more brassicas. And the far end, just yesterday, I planted out some pak choi seedlings. Above that area, I have some more netted area. This is the year of nets for me. And along the front, I have my peas. And I've got them kind of supported by string and sticks. This is a type called Meteor, so it won't get any taller than about 18 inches, which is great because then I can keep it underneath this netting. And then also in this bed, I've got lettuces and radishes and beetroots, green onions, rainbow chard, all sorts. Lots of leafy greens, which I love. I also have some rocket along there. I think that's called arugula in North America. And then I've just popped in a few extra seedlings along here. So there's some pak choi and some greens, and I think these are tender stem broccoli, some extra ones that I had after planting the area down below. And they're looking a little bit nibbled. I think that's flea beetle damage, but I'm not too bothered by that. Just so long as the plants are growing healthily, I can handle a few holes. And then the last bed up here, this is my herb bed, and I have quite a few different plants in here at the moment. I've got rosemary, sage, chives, and German chamomile down here at the bottom. And this is starting to flower. Look at this. I started this off from seed back in the beginning part of the year at home, and then planted it out. It's a lot surer of a method for growing some things, you know, starting by seed at home. And then back behind, I have 1.5 rows of calendula. And then the other half, so over there, I've recently sown with dill. And hopefully I'll be able to make some dill pickles this year. Some more chamomile here. And then my mint from last week. I'm gonna keep a close eye on it, guys, don't worry. And if it starts intermingling or escaping, I will take preventative action. This is another Sweet William that I've transplanted from home. Couldn't find any other space, so it went in the herb bed. Oregano or oregano. Melissa balm. This is a type of thyme. Ooh, that's lovely, just touching that. And that is Roman chamomile that I just grew in a block and planted out. This is the shorter stuff that you can use to make chamomile lawn. It smells fantastic. under my little mailbox where I keep a few hand tools. I've got some roses growing under there, some violets. I've got astrantia here, which I love. This is a medicinal herb called feverfew, used for migraines. I've planted a few cosmos in this patch, so that's a cosmos there, beautiful flowers, and it will get quite large further into the summer. This is a mullein, also a medicinal herb, and I found it as a seedling and I just transplanted it here. Green alkanet, which can become invasive, but I keep pretty good control of it. And this is one of my favorite medicinal herbs. It's called valerian, and the flowers are super sweet. And the roots, when you dig them up, they, first of all, will attract cats like catnip, but they can be dried and used as a sleeping aid. And you'll find it in a lot of natural sleep aid tablets and teas. The pond is doing really well, but I'm having to bail out water pretty regularly now because I have quite a bit of pond weed inside. So what I'm doing is I'm bailing water out from this area and using it to water plants and then refilling it just bit by bit, and it seems to be keeping the weed issue under control. This is, I'm not actually sure what the name of the plant is. My neighbor called it a papyrus, but she gave it to me. It was just an extra plant from their pond, and I popped it in the winter. Looks kind of interesting. And then the native flag iris are these yellow flowers here, and they've been blooming for the past few weeks. And then over here, this is a culinary herb called lovage. And lovage tastes very strongly of celery, and it is pretty big. It's getting massive. And then along here, I've got the lavender, including that French lavender that I planted last week. And now we're going to have a walk around the allotment site to see what else is growing on other people's plots. And that is one of the best things about being in a community garden. So learning and seeing what other people are growing. And if you're a beginner, it is the perfect place to start growing your own edibles. Let's go see if we can find some inspiration for ourselves. You don't really need to have an super tidy plot. I mean, leaving wild areas is good for wildlife, but by keeping your growing areas tidy and clean, you're reducing habitat for slugs and snails and rodents and other pests. And Peter's doing a great job of that. But he still has his little wild patch here, see? It's about balance. Wow. This looks so good. These are new members, newish from the beginning of the year, and they are up here pretty much every day. I think they're a retired couple, and this looks fantastic. They've put in, I imagine, these to keep pheasants out, and they're constantly bringing in composted manure. Oh wow, I can't get any closer. Let's see if I can zoom. Their courgettes are massive under there. Mine are still relatively small. Got them planted underneath that green mesh. See, in comparison, this is the size of courgettes, also called zucchini, at our site. Mine are about the same size, or a little bit smaller actually, but they're still home. This lady grows almost exclusively oriental vegetables for herself, and also she sells some of them to local Asian restaurants. Not for profit though, she donates the proceeds to charity. And they're looking really healthy, and she's got quite a few anti-bird measures in here. So she's got scarecrow, she has these garden kind of pinwheels, she's got bags tied to the sides, and she's got fence or netting around the edges. I actually wrote a piece over on lovelygreens.com just recently about ways to keep birds out of your garden, and some of these actually make it in there. There's also some unconventional ones in there as well. Definitely check it out. I'll put a link up on the screen. Head over to lovelygreens.com and see how you can also keep birds out of your garden in a natural and organic way. Potatoes grow so quickly. So this plot holder's potatoes are under netting to keep them protected from pheasants, and they earthed them up relatively recently, and look how much green growth is coming out of those mounds. It's gonna be quite a few spuds out of that patch, I'd say. I need to up my game and get a nice bench like this for my plot. Look at this. You can sit here at the edge and look out over your vegetable domain. I love that so many of our members have space for wildlife in their allotments, and this was actually constructed, so the little pond there and the apple trees and the flowers, this was all put together by a former plot holder who had to give up her plot because of other commitments, but it's still here and it's serving its purpose and it looks pretty. This is actually probably a self-sown. This is campion, which is a local wildflower. And then there's other bits and bobs in here, some fruit bushes, gooseberries here in the front. And then that little pond will attract frogs to the garden. And frogs eat slugs, so it's always a good idea. So that's been a really good walk around the site to see not only what's growing here in my garden, but what other people are doing too. And I guess when you're working in your own garden, you can be so focused on what is right in front of you that, at least for me, I had no idea that some of this was happening on the far side of the field. And it's just walking around and opening our horizons in a way, you know, getting inspiration from other places that we can actually improve our own garden. So I need to get straw under my strawberries and a few other things. And I thank all of our plot holders here for reminding me to do that. I want to know, first of all, how your garden is doing. What is your garden looking like right now? What challenges are you facing? And also, I'm really curious to know, how big are your courgette and zucchini plants? Are they a comparable size to that plot holders over there, the big ones? Or are they smaller? Are they already producing fruits? Vegetables for some people, but you know what I mean. I'm really curious to know. So leave your comments below. Let us know how yours are doing. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching this tour around my allotment garden. And give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I will see you next week for another video here on the Lovely Greens YouTube channel. See you then.